Good morning, YouTube. Tyler Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully, you guys are doing all right. Hopefully, you guys are okay. Relatively quiet evening yesterday, despite there being an enhanced risk for severe weather, which is always good news. We don't mind. We don't mind when these systems underperform. A handful of tornado reports. Most reports are wind, and there weren't even that many. But I do notice quite a few flooding reports were ongoing yesterday. Flash flood warnings are still in effect right now as these storms are rolling through these areas. We're starting to get into Kentucky and Tennessee right now with that. Here's our line of storms. We have one severe thunderstorm warning in effect right now. It's right over here towards Russellville, Kentucky. And does have a tornado possible tag on it. Somewhere probably within this part of the line here is where we can expect a point of rotation. But other than that, I'm not really too concerned with it. I don't think it's rotating strongly enough to really cause any issues, but Butler and Logan counties are the counties that we will be looking for here. The main hazard, of course, with this is mainly damaging wind. So that being said, let's scroll down and get a little bit better idea of the scope of this storm system as of right now. It's a pretty good linear system at this point right now. But that isn't going to necessarily matter because as time goes on, this line will break down again, and towards the southern sectors where we could be looking for discrete cells to pop up yet again, leading to a potential tornado threat once again. So we're gonna just shift down these radar sites, shift through these radar sites down the line, and you can see that we don't have any severe warnings. Here's a tornado report from earlier, and this one's in Tennessee, just to the northwest of or northeast of Memphis and to the west of Jackson, actually. But you can see the slew of flash flood warnings here. Some of these will be set to expire over these areas soon, especially through Arkansas. So we're just going to keep rolling through these radars here. These storms to the south, I'm going to be still watching a little bit. I don't really think the tornado potential is high with this one. But I think this is where the actual front is, if anything else. But there's actually a little bit of potential here. I think as these shift further east, the potential is going to increase. In fact, you can see a little bit of shape right here. But will that hold together? That was the problem with yesterday's storms. If you were looking for a tornado threat, these storms could never stay discrete. They ended up forming into a line, and as a result, nothing really came of it. So that being said, we're going to roll out of this, get a look at the tornado watch that we have in effect right now, because there still is one. I just had to move it around so you could get a better look at that severe thunderstorm warning. Hold up a minute. I think they just issued a tornado warning on that cell that we were just talking about. Yep, there it is. They they just decided to pull the trigger on that. So Butler, Logan, and Warren counties, you are now under a tornado warning. Please take shelter. It's a radar indicated tornado, but odds are if this does end up producing, you are not going to see it because it's most likely rain wrapped. And this is right to the north and west of Bowling Green. So please take shelter, especially since you may be heading to work or getting your kids ready for school. But what else? The other thing I was going to touch on here was the threat of flash flooding. So I'm going to move some stuff around here real quick. And we were going to talk about that really quickly. Because we actually have a moderate risk for, moderate risk for excessive rainfall, flash flooding, etc. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here is our moderate risk, and it's particularly between the LaGrange, Georgia area and over towards Alabama through Montgomery, towards Greenville, Selma. We're having to watch you guys today, and really ending out towards Camden. Slight risk goes all the way to the Gulf Coast, even as far back as New Orleans. But now we're looking at places like Atlanta starting to get involved in the action here. Chattanooga, you're in this slight risk for excessive rainfall. And, Nashville's not in it right now, but I do think you probably may end up in it because you've had a couple rounds of storms now at this point. And even then, there's still a marginal risk that stretches all the way up, even towards Louisville. So we'll have to watch you guys there. And then we'll switch this back off and actually talk about our severe weather outlook for the day, because I didn't even touch on that just yet. But here's what we have going with our severe threat. Obviously, this is just outside our slight risk, but here's our tornado warning up to the north. This is in our marginal risk. This is just a reminder that even if you're in a marginal risk, which is technically just a 2% area or 5% area of severe weather, it doesn't mean it can't happen. That being said, our slight risk encompasses Nashville, Chattanooga, Murfreesboro. Jackson, you're still in there, but I think your threat's about to be over within the next couple of hours. Then we get into northern and north central Alabama. We have Birmingham, Gadsden, Huntsville, Florence. You guys are in there. Still have some parts of Mississippi involved here. Main round of storms is going to be coming soon. So Tupelo, Columbus, Mississippi, Greenwood, Jackson, look out. Atlanta, you're in that slight risk as well as Dalton and Rome, LaGrange, Columbus. You guys be on your toes today. And then over here is where we have our enhanced risk, where it is mainly generated by a tornado threat, although the wind threat will probably be going up with this soon. So Tuscaloosa, you're just on the cutting edge of being on this line. You actually might be in it, or at least the south side of the city might be in this enhanced risk here. Then we have to watch areas like Montgomery, Alabaster, and Mobile is in it. Mobile is definitely in it. And we can't forget Hattiesburg, Gulfport, New Orleans, you're in there too, as well as Baton Rouge, Mandeville. So very active day expected for you guys. This is mainly a tornado generated threat, but the wind threat is there as well. We're going to go ahead and highlight that. And in that enhanced risk particularly, there is a threat for maybe a couple of significant tornadoes greater than EF2 strength. But that 5% threat stretches now a little further east. Atlanta, you're now involved in that as well. So now we'll go ahead and look at the wind threat, and then we'll go over what's to be expected here. So our wind threat actually has stayed at a slight risk, but I do think there is a little bit greater potential for damaging winds, mainly through this area. Maybe they're having a hard time pinpointing that. Maybe there's still some uncertainties there, but I think the wind threat is a little bit higher than a slight risk in my personal opinion. But that's just me stating my opinion. That's just how I run the channel. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have in store here. This is the HRRR. We're going to jump over here and take a look at how this is going to evolve or maybe devolve throughout the day. So one thing to watch over here is these storms move further to the east, and this little southern sector where that enhanced risk is mainly going to be where we end up seeing some potential for a few discrete cells. We have to watch the structure of these, and right now it looks a little bit more like crapvection more so than actual supercells, but a little further back towards New Orleans, where we're having to watch you guys closer. And then there's a few around southern Alabama, maybe even towards the Florida Panhandle, that we got to watch closely. So maybe just west of Panama City, we'll be watching you guys. And then we'll watch this kind of progress here. We do see a couple more discrete cells right here just ahead of the cold front. And then just as quickly as things come in, it looks like it's just about over. And this is heading into the overnight. This is not going to be a nocturnal threat like yesterday. I think this is going to be earlier in the day. Maybe towards Mississippi, we'll have to watch you guys, because it still looks a little messy there, but that's just what we're dealing with here. Another thing to keep in mind here is we are also looking at a ice storm event that's going on towards the northeast. Go ahead and take a look at that right now. Switch back over to radar Omega. We'll go to the multi-radar scan. A little hard to see with all of these advisories up, but we have winter storm watches, winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings in effect. But our heavy snow has started to occur over towards central Nebraska. Now we're finally starting to change over to ice, but now we're starting to get northwestern Iowa in play, and this is where significant ice storm issues were expected. And we're beginning to see that unfold now. I mentioned in last night's video that overnight was going to be the time that I think the effects of the ice would be, or the greatest ice totals would be occurring, and that definitely looks like that's the case here. Oh, jeez. Keeps on having me zoom in. I don't want to zoom in. There we go. But pretty much anywhere from just to the west of Rochester, Iowa, from the looks of it, all the way down towards, I'd say maybe Norfolk, Nebraska. We're still dealing with wintry mix and icy precipitation right now. Anywhere to the north of that, looks like you're dealing with some snow and possibly even some heavy snow. If we look just to the north of North Platte here, like Answorth and O'Neill, you're looking at some pretty good snow right now, maybe even significant snow. Rates of maybe an inch an hour or more could be possible even. But that's what we have going on right now. Throughout the day, you guys are going to be dealing with increasing snowfall over towards Minnesota as we continue to go forward, especially towards central Minnesota, towards St. Paul. But yeah, it's a lot to cover here, a lot going on. I'm going to go ahead and quickly try to take a look at these snowfall totals. I'm trying to figure out which one would be the best one here to look at. So we'll start out by looking at the reflectivity here. We're going to switch over to our normal reflectivity instead of composite. Here's what we have going on at our current time. And this ice eventually is going to start waning, thankfully. So we're going to start to see some snow on the backside of this. It will pose problems simply because of the fact that that snow will start to cover up that ice and then eventually freeze over too. But for the most part, I think the worst will be over probably by mid-morning, early afternoon, as the cold air really starts to circulate in behind this system. So let's go ahead and jump over to the blend of models here and make our comparison. So here's what our blend of models is showing for snowfall totals over these regions, as we're still dealing with snowfall right now. Some areas could push about 10 inches or more. We could get up to a foot. That's where that heavy snow band, that's where the heaviest snow band is located though. So this is not too unexpected. But there's a lot of areas that could be seeing widespread 3, 4, 5 inches. Some places could, in the purple here in the outskirts of it, could be seeing 6 to 10 inches possibly. And then once we get into the blue, we're looking at about 3 to 5. And then once we get into the light blue color, we're starting to look at maybe 1 to 2 inches, maybe 3 inches tops. So that's what we have going on there. And then when we look at the ice totals, we're looking at a few places towards southern Minnesota and northern Iowa that get close to that 1/4 inch mark of ice. Some ice is already falling here, so you still might reach that 1/4 inch mark, which could result in some issues with the power. So hopefully you guys are prepared for that. Just trying to stay on top of it for you. And then we do see some of this starting to move further east towards Wisconsin. We'll cover that in this evening's video. But that's all I got for this one. I'm going to have to run and get ready to work. I'll see you guys later this afternoon. This has been Metalhead Weatherman. Take care.